See, if you consider North Bangalore, we have series of tank. Right from we have Ardesh Nalli, Madurai Kerai, Hesarghatta. It goes on up to Hebad, then Nagavara, then further. This is like a chain of lakes, as I told you earlier, and they are very much interconnected. When each lake, when it gets filled up, it drains to the other, so it goes on. And especially it has a huge catchment area. So surrounding area, whatever is green, whatever is the area, they are the one which drains the storm water into the lake. So traditionally, I think it was designed by the then rulers how exactly the water source should be. Hesarghatta, it was a feeder for Bangalore once upon a time, and it's very huge. So in these lakes, one interesting thing we have noticed, at least I and my group were studying the bird diversity in the tanks of North Bangalore since 12 years. So according to us, what we realize is at least 30 to 40% are migratory. The birds which come, and most of them being Europe. From Europe, then we have from America, Siberia, then Tajikistan, etc. All these areas. They come during winter, especially during late September to October. You know very well why they migrate. They migrate only because the place where they reside, it will be with snow. It's a temperate climate region, and that is the time when they don't find food and a favorable climate. They go to tropics. So when they migrate to tropic, so they find different lakes, and they have signatures. These birds, when they migrate, they have signatures where to land. Probably it is genetic instinct that they should go, that flock should go into that place. So every year we get to this North Bangalore lakes, a few set of flocks which come regularly. For example, I can state straight away the bar-headed goose, which come all the way from Tibet and Mongolia, and they land to Bangalore. Similarly, we have northern pin-tail ducks and ruddy-shelled ducks and mallard, pochard. All these are coming from America and Europe, that part. So they also come in huge flocks. And plus, there are some of these rare resident birds which actually breed. Let me tell you, make it clear, only the resident native birds breed.
Okay.
For example, painted storks, pelicans, whatever you see them breeding, they are all resident birds. Maybe they are local migrants. They would have come from India or from Tamil Nadu or from Gujarat at the most. But whichever come from far off other countries or continent, they are all migrants, they don't breed.
Okay.
So they arrive in November and they leave the place by late April to May. This is the time it is favorable. That is the time when the climate is favorable for them. And after May, definitely the snow would have melted, so they have to get back to their country. This is happening since age old. So we noticed at least 20 to 30% migratory birds come. If we take all these lakes, I say Hesarghatta was most excellent. Then comes the Madurai Kerai, which had a more number of bar-headed goose and other ducks. Then comes Jakkur. Jakkur was one of the top 3. Then again Hebad, then Puttenhalli. These are the 5 important lakes in that North Bangalore, which harbored very good healthy population of birds from time immemorial. But our analysis says since 2003 onwards, when we started the so-called development, either widening of roads or regularizing the encroachment, or even we trying to rejuvenate the lake, that has made the bird shift to other places. See, always one thing we should remember, lake is not a tank, it's an ecosystem, and it is always saucer shape. The surrounding stormwater drain should, from the catchment area, should drain to this lake. When it gets filled up, it will flow again to the next lake. And this is very much, the shoreline is very much required because that is the place where many of the kingfishers breed.
Okay.
And many of the birds which do not swim, that is a place where they actually come for food. So each and every strata is very well classified. And at the center in the water, the ducks will be there. Whatever it is, during day, they are happily wading around, and at night, at dusk, they go to the catchment area where they take shelter amongst the vegetation or paddy field or ragi field. Again, they come in the morning. So this happens throughout. Over the past 2003, as I said, thanks to the so-called development happening, including Jakkur, let me only concentrate on Jakkur and tell, The entire area, if you see, one side some brick industry, other side there are a lot of encroachment happening with the big builders, and the other side whatever is left is road. And that area cannot ever support many ducks as it used to do. 2010, our report says there is reduction of 30% of bird population. That's only because, see, birds arrive, birds don't care whether the lake is good or bad. If it is bad for the surrounding people. The bird just don't bother, it goes to the other lake. If not this, another lake. So, if at all the bird is not arriving, that only means that it is not a favorable climate anymore and the habitat has been altered. Third thing is the food availability has gone down. You would have seen some of the fishes dying. That's only lack of oxygen. So dissolved oxygen will be less and lot of turbidity, and most important is lot of effluents are flowing into the lake. Whether they wash the vehicles, that flows in, and all from the apartment, that flows in, and surrounding paddy field or any field area, whatever the pesticide they use, that also flows in. So it has become a pool of all the garbage and even the drain and also pesticide. These all result in dying of fishes. Fish population will definitely go down. This will invite the birds not to come anymore to this lake and shift to other places. So it's a threat. Whatever you see now, still Jakkur harbors good number of birds. Thanks to the officers, they have started fencing the area so that no more encroachment. This is not the end of the game. Actually, they should protect the catchment area. Now, whatever is built, it is not possible to demolish. Though it is possible legally, there are so many hurdles. But those areas which is not encroached, still you can see the paddy field. Those should be kept unaltered. That will drain into the lake. And first thing is, foremost, all the possible nearby encroachment should be cleared. And wherever the sewage is flowing, wherever the effluents are flowing, there should be a sewage treatment plant where it will filter the organic debris and only make the pure water to flow. Then only the Jakkur lake will be safe. Maybe in coming years it might invite more birds. It is like do or die situation. If not this, they might have to fly longer distance. And like Bangaloreans, they are getting adapted. Whether it is very polluted water or the polluted atmosphere or the polluted fish, still they are able to survive. If you see in Jakkur, there are some trees which harbor pelicans. They are nesting also. If they are nesting, that means they have acclimatized to that area. They are happy. It's not actually the way we can say they are happy, but they are getting used to it. It is challenge of getting safe place and food. For that they are accustoming, but not migratory birds. They will not do this. Only the local native birds can do this. So whatever you see, maybe the cormorants and the pelicans and the egrets.
Lot of egrets
and
there.
Even
and
the moorhens
coots
and coots all.
yeah.
They are the locals which are getting used to it. But as I said, migratory birds will never compromise on such worse scenarios.
Okay. But none of the migratory birds, they don't stay? They just,
No,
okay.
they leave. By the time it is mid of May, they would have left to their country back,
Okay.
whether it is Europe or America, Siberia, they go back. Again they arrive in late November, mid to late November. They have the systematic cycle where they have to come in. And most important, there is one more problem which everybody is posing is culturing African catfish,
Okay.
which is banned by
Yes.
Fisheries Department.
Yeah.
Their law says culturing and selling invites 6 lakh rupees and 3-year imprisonment. So far, none were prosecuted.
Yeah, because when the lake, they dewatered the lake, you could see thousands of catfishes in it.
These catfish,
they were
the problem
yes.
is it's an exotic.
Yeah.
It can survive on the
In
worst
any
possible
sort of
water,
water, yeah.
and it can feed on every the chicken waste, whatever is thrown. Most threatening thing is they eat away all the native fish species. So introducing African catfish was a bane. In 1980s they introduced. Now it is becoming such a mess. It is there is an order. Catch it and kill it. That's the only way you can eliminate them. But it is not so easy. You have to convince the fisherman, because for them it is like a meal.
Yeah,
It is a price catch, whatever it grows. People are not bothered where the fish is grown, what is the pollutants it is carrying. It has lead content, everything it imbibes, and that same fish is eaten by city people. So this is quite a big danger. So that has to be regulated. Even fisheries department feel helpless. They say we have law, but to execute, police are not cooperating. We have many more things to worry. Why your fish? We need not catch those people who are cultivating fish. So this kind of irresponsibility has led to such kind of drastic problems. Ducks prefer spacious water where they can wade around, they can paddle and wade. For them it is useless. So if you create island, make sure that you balance and create 10% of the area. Rest 90% is water, plus the shoreline. And water hyacinth, that's a dreadest weed which can come on any lake. It only indicates it has sewage inflow. Most polluted lake, presence of water hyacinth. So if you want to remove the water hyacinth, manually it is a futile exercise. Clean the lake, it will go. Load of nutrients make them grow. Less nutrients will definitely seize them. So less nutrient is possible when you cut the sewage flowing inside. So it's a chain reaction, So if you want to keep healthy lake, make sure no sewage inflow. Make sure the catchment areas are free, and make sure shoreline is not altered, not deepened, and make sure there is lot of security for the birds there. And it's a healthy lake. Lake ecosystem should have the following: fish, then amphibian, reptile, bird, of course smaller mammals all together. It's a harmonious way of living. Earlier also, if you date back, people, it was always maintained by community. The village which was, the villagers used to come forward and offer their whatever manpower to desilt the lake. That is how they are maintaining, because they used to feel this is ours. Now it has become BDA or LDA. People are not bothered. That's why that many.
No, people were using it actually last some 7, 8, because they were all cultivating till the Arkavati layout form. No, till then I think it was a cultivating.
Even now they use the water, but it is highly polluted.
But actually, what happened is like meanwhile, I mean 3-4 years back, we could see that not only brick making they were taking, but also for this sand filtering, that was a huge business which was like right next to this lake which was happening.
All these mafias has created a great problem for the lake. See, nature gives natural resource to consume, not to loot. You can consume to an extent. I was always telling you, we are not the stakeholders. There are many more stakeholders. Human beings, one of the species. There are other birds, reptiles, fish. They are also equally having the right of the lake. Whatever we are doing, we are only thinking this is our right. Lake belongs to BDA. That is with respect to human being. Lake belongs to birds. Anybody have thought? Lake belongs to the insects or the fishes there. So we are actually grabbing their rights, which is not fair. It is live and let others live. That's how should be the concept. Then only it can survive. Otherwise, it's horrible. But as I earlier said, fishes are not bothered. It is people who should bother. Or the birds are not bothered. It is people who should bother. Fishes, once the lake is polluted, they might die. Birds, if lake is polluted, they'll go to other lakes. Human beings can't go somewhere else. So at least for that we should be there. In this IISc campus, it is some 410 acres. And this is what you see is a pond, which was an abandoned quarry. And this we rejuvenated it since 3 years ago and called it as a centenary pond, because it being 100th year. And what you see, the water is actually the water drained from the entire campus and corner to this place. So storm water is drained to here. And what you see, this water is in the month of May. So during July and August it gets filled up. So this proves that if you decide based on the topography, and if you decide to rejuvenate a lake, we are making all the rainwater to drain into one place, definitely we can create a lake. This is one live example, which we call centenary pond. Oh, that's interesting. They live harmoniously. And we don't know whether they communicate. But definitely, once these ducks come, they have some space. They maintain space. They don't come together.
They don't mix.
They don't mix. They maintain safe distance, and that's respect what they give. And the local ducks, all the time they'll be happy wading around. But the migrants, after about 7 to 8 in the morning, they come from other places where they were roosting.
Yeah.
They'll come and land, and happily up to 12 o'clock they'll be there. Again they'll go back.
That will be
That's very interesting. If you want, you can document during October or November. If you go to Hebal and Jaipur, if you sit 7 o'clock in the morning with your cameras on, they come in flock. And you know they follow V shape, V pattern. The leader being at the center, and this is to cut the speed and cut the tiredness. So they come all the way and land. That's very interesting. Again, when they take off also the same fashion. Very less study has been done to understand whether it is the same group. But by and large, new cannot come in that way. But as I told, if Jaipur gets spoilt away, these birds have to go to other regions. So at that time they shift. And all depends on the condition of the lakes. Our Madiwala lake, if you remember, 14 flamingos had come 4 years ago. And people were happy to say that Madiwala lake is good, that's why they have come. I said wait till evening. Evening they flew back. And these come all the way from Run of Kutch, Gujarat. So it's just, for some birds this is stopover, Bangalore is stopover. After this they go to Tamil Nadu. They stay here for 1 or 2 months and go to Tamil Nadu. Same way when they return, this is stopover and they go. Most of the migrant birds which comes from Trans-Himalayan region, Ladakh is the stopover. I think they acclimatize and again they travel all the way. Maximum distance our Bangalore birds might cover is 8,000 kilometers. Yeah, 8,000. Quite long. And we have one bar-tailed godwit, which we sighted in Hesarghatta in 2006. After that we did not sight. It's a small heron-sized bird. That's the longest distance flying bird non-stop. Natun Concord, 8,000 kilometers.
and it's
Non-stop. One stretch, no stopover at all.
But actually, how do they manage food and
They have some preparations. Before that, they have some 1 to 2 weeks preparation where they eat and deposit in the form of fat. Bar-headed goose, which I told, they come from Mongolia and Tibet. Stopover is Ladakh. After that, they have to fly 18,000 feet to cross the Himalaya and come to the south.
Like a flight.
It has to take, And if at all they miss the season, all will die. Because it will be temporary. They have to escape the temporary climate. So it's a do or die situation. They have to fly to the larger extent and then take. And they should get the wind current, otherwise they will not get.
And the climate.
Yeah, climate plays an important role. Like for example, some of these big cranes, what we get Siberian crane or anything. For them, the bird is this side. So to take off that much of the pull is required and push is required, thrust is required. At that time, if the wind doesn't cooperate, they go down. All Bernoulli's principle. The bird flies based on Bernoulli's principle. That according to us, we don't know what is the hidden principle inside. Because even today we don't know how exactly they can maneuver. Even our ship and planes will fail with GPS. They can maneuver. And 2009 there is a report which says they have cluster N cells in the brain. This get activated during migratory season. Then they can sense the magnetic compass, whatever, plus even the smell, chemical and all those. And they have signatures. The island, the forest, river, road, all these are signatures. They can remember. And what comes this year, the next year along with the flock, the new birds come, the young ones. So they have not seen this area.
so but they come
It's
that's with the sensors.
genetic instinct to come all the way.
So but most of these birds they live some 5 years to nearly 5 years.
Maximum lifespan is vultures. They survive to 65 years.
Wow. So that's why they
And minimum could be, bigger the bird, longer the lifespan. Usually sparrows, maybe 10-12 years maximum.
Oh, sparrows also.
10-12 years maximum. And parakeets and crows up to 20-25 years and 30 years. This is all conditional. In zoo, we don't know in wild how many years they survive.
Quite fascinating also.
Very fascinating because this is one which we are unable to decode. How do they fly? We give so many theories, but accurately how do they do, we don't know.
Okay.
Not a joke to fly at night.
Yeah.
Okay.
As dangerous as driving in the night.
But they do. They arrive. They, by the time it is November 12 to 15, they are there.
Okay.
By the time it is March 24th to April 1st week, they start preparing for taking off.
Okay.
And the taking off also is very interesting. They come in a big flock from other parts of the world. Once they come, they spread over at a region.